Welcome back to Web3 Whispers, where we talk to the gigabrains and the anons of Web3. We've got me, Matthias, and my co-host, Steeb. Who do we
Hey
got on
guys.
today?
Hey guys. We have Halko and Mario Digital from Dopex. Halko, Mario, do you guys want to introduce yourself? Maybe just say what your role is in the community, and then we could start shooting the shit about Dopex and give the people what they want to know.
Yeah, sure. Hey guys, I'm Mario Digital. I do community and comms at Dopex. Yeah, that's the gist about me.
Short and sweet. I like it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm Halko, and I help Mario with playing online. So also some numbers, some explainers, some calls. Whatever happens. So it's never a boring day.
You can tell Halko is a gigabrain from the nice little intro. He's the numbers and words guy for Dopex.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, for his Twitter bio.
That's not true.
And he's shy. Yeah, yeah.
He's shy. It's from being so
Our
beautiful,
secret
right?
is that actually we are like very small brains because we do not like write complex white papers. We think like is what we do understandable for everyone or not? And then if this doesn't pass this check, then we scrap it. So it's always keep it simple.
Yeah, you got to make it digestible for the smooth brains, like me and Matthias.
Exactly. They're small brains, but they're just like Ferrari engines. There's only dialed in for crypto. Anything else just falls right out, right?
Yeah. Halko and Mario have the
birthday,
V12 engines up top.
No, not me. I'm with you guys. I'm on the same level with you guys, buddy.
He's got the 4 cylinders. Yeah. Matthias and I are like mopeds, and then we got Halko over here, who's just a Lamborghini waiting to roar.
Team moped. Here we go.
Anyway, so if you guys want to speak a little bit on what Dopex is, just so that people understand, and then we can get into some of the specifics after that.
Whoever wants to take that one, feel free to jump on up. It's basically like a short and sweet version of what Dopex.
Yeah, I think Halko, you wanna try it? You're so good at this.
Yeah, I can say so. Long story short, Dopex is the options protocol, right? So this is the protocol to match users that are looking to buy options and then the users that are looking to sell options on different crypto assets. So I think that's the whole idea. So the idea itself is quite simple, but I think there is much more behind the surface. Should I also give a quick rundown what the options are? Or do the publicity would know?
Yeah, so I can give if you want, I can do like a real quick rundown, and then you guys can elaborate. I have some time spent in the options market just from I work for an investment bank right now, and then prior to that, I was working for one of the big 4 accounting firms. So I've done some time in the industry, and then on the side, I do a lot of, or prior to this, to a lot of equity investment. So I have some knowledge there, and I can just break it down real quick, and then you guys can take it and run with it. Because I have a question just in terms of comparing it to options trading on the stock market and how that compares to crypto derivatives. So for anyone that's listening that doesn't already know, options on the stock market are derivatives, which means that it's a security that derives value from an underlying asset. They take the form of contracts that give the buyer the right. This is key because it's not an obligation, but it gives you the right to buy or sell underlying assets at a specific price on or before a certain day. There's a lot of variables that play into value there, like theta decay and some other things that we don't really need to get into the nitty gritty, but they can be used to compound income, hedge risk, and it's all through the form of price speculation, right? So the most basic options on the stock market are calls and puts, right? Calls represent a speculation that the price will go up, and puts do the opposite. Options aren't free. Obviously, they have to have a premium attached to them, which represents the payment to lock in your right to buy or sell the underlying asset at a specific date. So an example would be like if Amazon is priced at $10 a share right now, I believe it's going to go up to $100 in 2 years. I can buy a call option to purchase Amazon at $50 a share in 2 years from now, right? So 2 things could happen. The price could skyrocket to 150 in 2 years, and my option will be extremely valuable because I can essentially purchase the asset for a discount. Or the price could be $40 in 2 years. and my option would essentially have no value because I'd be purchasing at $10 over the price. So I'd just be forced to basically purchase at market value. The inverse is true for buying a put option. So I was hoping Halko or Mario, after that breakdown, you can correct any mistakes that you think I made verbally, and if you guys could also just compare how Dopex, which I know stands for Decentralized Options Exchange, if you can compare how Dopex relates to the stock market, and if there's any differences, any big differences that you would like to point out before we get into some of the specifics.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting. Like depending on where you come from, because if you come from let's say U.S. equities, which
Mm-hmm.
are like the most liquid market in the world, and like almost every derivative market,
Mm-hmm.
then it is quite interesting, right? Because you can buy options with many customizable parameters, whatever you like, and what you have to do, you need to find some broker, and you need to find any kind of exchange, and you will be able to find many different assets, different parameters, strikes, expirations. And in crypto, we are still, yes, before that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think crypto options are like much more like emerging market. I think if you came across emerging markets, then maybe crypto are much closer to this, right? Which means if you think about such a markets, then liquidity right now it's still very fragmented, and
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to the options, maybe the longest term that you can like effectively trade is 3 months for like bitcoins and ETH. But the most liquid ones are usually for like 1 week, 1 month. So compared to US, where you can pretty much buy options 1 to 3 years outright, here the horizons are much shorter, and it's quite interesting because even if you take a look at the numbers, it's quite interesting, right? Because everyone is thinking, well, if you look at the traditional markets, then options are big, options are large, derivatives are large, right? That's a massive pie. So if you have a slice of this pie in crypto, then well, that would be cool. But the thing is that in crypto, the derivatives for now they are very minuscule. So right now, I think with options, 90% of all the volume goes through centralized exchanges, and almost all of that goes through Deribit. And even if you take a look at Deribit numbers, they are still considerably, I think, like small compared to many other venues. So it's a very niche market when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you take a look at the on-chain options, then yeah, indeed we have like quite a few protocols, like maybe quite a few different assets parameters, but it's still very early, and those markets are still quite small. And I think it's quite interesting when you think about it, because I would say as follows: that if you are mostly a retail user,
Mm-hmm.
let's think so, then most likely you came across options maybe when hearing about, let's say, Wall Street bets. So you would think about options as a highly speculative instrument.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that when you scratch the surface, right, a lot of these magical notional, you see these memes or whatever that people would post saying, here is like, market cap of like Bitcoin, here is like market cap of crypto, here is of all these stocks, bonds, and then there is a huge massive box that says derivatives, right? But it's still derivatives. It's still calculated by notional. And the thing is that a lot of these flows is like hedging, with like people basically moving risk around, and many venues like market makers, brokers, participants, they are mostly looking to shuffle the risk around, and then the amount of like very active speculators that on board all on this risk and take this risk is definitely not the most dominant player on the market, right? And,
Mm-hmm.
and right now, I think in crypto, especially on chain, uh, many kind of protocols were thinking, well, we would uh, onboard traders first, and create most likely protocols for like sophisticated users. But the thing is that actually, as we see how everything slowly develops, or maybe develops very rapidly, then actually there is and there will be more and more needs to actually hedge. And I think you
Hmm.
can see it like last year, everyone would be just thinking, how to maximize the profits. And right now, people are finally catching up, thinking that, actually, I do not need to take all this risk. I can maybe only take a part of this risk, right? And I
Hmm.
can use different derivatives to isolate some of my risk, and maybe I can use options to do this. And I think that's very interesting because that's what we also observe, that if we would kind of manage to find this kind of sweet spot, right, where we are not only catering to like pros to or like degens, who of course are very like loud important segment of the market, but we also have these natural hedges, then that would be like very cool, and it would be also some kind of um, a mark of maybe market's maturity, right? Because if you for example, like if you are like traditional entity that is doing derivatives, then what you like the most is to have some kind of clients, users that are most likely natural risk sellers, like so they would always sell options or maybe buy options, or
Hmm.
basically always provide you some certain, and I think it would be also good as crypto markets develop to have more and more of this, because I think that right now a lot of activity on chain is mostly speculative driven, right? And I think we can see this, that whenever price goes down, all the activity kind of dies. And yeah, but at least it's crypto, which means there are like no breaks, but also no restriction, which means things go up fast and then everything gets flushed, and then the things that work survive. So
Hmm.
so yeah, so I think this is where we are right now. So we are, I know
Yeah.
that's a very cliche, but we are very early. So let's see how it goes.
You are
I think
early.
yeah, exactly. If you're listening to this, you're early. I think it's
Yeah.
pretty hype, but it's interesting the point that you're saying that as we see more options being used, it's actually like kind of a sign of the market maturing and getting a
Hmm.
little bit more sophisticated, right? So um, I wonder if a lot of retail will eventually be using options, or do you think the most volume might be from treasuries or treasury management, like protocols using Dopex? If they hold, let's say, ETH in their treasury, they don't want to see that go down, so they're kind of just hedging against that. Do you see that kind of volume right now, or do you see that as the use case more crypto institutions, let's say, like
Mhm.
treasuries and that kind of stuff, or is it more driven towards retail?
I think that's uh, I think that's a good question. I mean, uh, right now we are in this quite interesting place where definitely you have a very like active and significant group of people just like speculation. So users that you could say that may have some kind of like Robin Hood slash Wall Street bet background, but also I think that like as you speak to like many protocols, you can see a lot of differences, which means uh, like interestingly, throughout the past year, we saw many like protocols, many DAOs, many treasuries like end up with basically speaking, let's say you are a founder, you are a developer, or there is a team of you guys, and suddenly you end up sitting on some significant pile of money that you need to manage to make sure that your project weathers through all these storms. You have all the money to pay to the developers to cover all your costs, etc., etc. So you end up having to manage these amounts. And the thing is that right that many of these people do not really have like experience of
Hmm.
playing like risk
Hmm.
managers, treasurers. So it's quite interesting, right? Because some people would think, well, we need to YOLO everything so that we make a lot of money, and then usually you see right people burning for 20 millions of treasury in half a year, which is crazy. but
Hmm.
also, but also you see some people thinking, well, actually, we are not so sophisticated, so we need to tread carefully. And these people, when you talk to them, they are like, you can see they're like very, very wise, because they can very quickly spot where they are good at, what they are not. And I think that going forward, we will see maybe more and more protocols either maybe hiring some maybe people like to manage treasuries, or maybe even having specialized protocols that would manage the treasuries, like like help managing their runway, which is pretty much what happens like in traditional world, and it's pretty good thing, I guess. And then as you have more and more like ways for users to avoid to manage risk, then I think it would be quite natural to use more and more options. Because even like when you think about this, let's say you have some amount of ETH in your treasury, and you have to, for example, cover for your costs for the next 6 months or like 3 months. So you are of course exposed to a lot of volatility because of ETH. Let's say you have to pay your team in 2 weeks from now, in 3 weeks from now, and you are still exposed to all the market movements. So you never know how much ETH you would need to spend in the end. And it's pretty cool, because if you are using options, right, you can use options to hedge, and then you can lock in the price. You can maybe buy the puts, you can maybe write some options, and whatever you do, whatever you choose, you are slicing this risk into like pieces. And you think, okay, at least now I can sleep well, because I have like my maybe worst case covered or something like this. So I think it's this. So for sure, it would be very, very cool to have some large Degen whale that would be able to churn through like $1 billion of options notional every month. But I do not really think that this we will see this. I think it's much more likely to just if this is DeFi, then to have more and more users, more and more protocols start thinking, well, in addition to being degens, of course we can use options as well to be degens, but we may end up, basically speaking, using options protocol like Dopex to manage our money. So I think that's also
Yeah.
No, it's an interesting point, I think, too. Like, one thing that I think Matthias and I have talked about a lot in previous podcasts is this idea of finding something that you're good at within the crypto space and leveraging that, and just focusing on that and creating like different revenue streams, different streams for income through the things that you're good at. And I think kind of like creating jobs for the job market, it's interesting because every time we see a protocol like this, a platform like this being made, it creates a lot of opportunities for people to um, work in a part of crypto that they haven't done before, not just through treasury, not just like someone looking for like a risk manager for their treasury, but also just like retail investors wanting to be able to either one, hedge their risk, or just compound income. Like, if I have a long position on a certain coin and I want to make more off of that coin because I think it's going to go up, and I know that you said that the time horizons are a lot smaller on crypto derivatives than they are like in the stock market. So like, let's say I think X stable coin is going up in a month or 2 weeks or something like that. Like, yes, I have that position, but now I can also get in through options and leverage that to kind of double down on my gains, my unrealized gains from the stable coin that I'm holding. So I think it's an interesting point. I think it creates a lot of avenues for growth in the industry. I think it also creates a lot of avenues for entrance from institutions, from retail investors, people that want to be able to manage their risk or compound that interest, like we've been talking about. Like, I think a lot of institutions may be hesitant to get in on certain crypto assets, just given like the historical volatility. But if they want to go long on Ethereum and they want to be able to hedge that position by having like a short and put option through Dopex, then they can, and that gives them a lot of different avenues for entrance aside from just the different avenues for income.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious, Halko, if you have an estimation on how many of these projects are probably gonna like blow through their treasury, not knowing how to manage it, not seeing the risk and the volatility. Because, I mean, with normal companies, you can kind of price out like, oh, okay, we have 3 years, we have a year, because it's all in dollars. But these ones, a lot of times, are priced in ETH, or they take in ETH, especially these NFT projects. Do you think a lot of these are going to blow through their runway much quicker? Seeing ETH drop by 25%, they now have 25% less runway and they haven't accounted for it or they haven't hedged against it. Do you think we'll see a few of them go under or start to raise again? What do you think?
Hmm.
How many
I
degen
think,
projects do
yeah,
you think are out there?
I think that's a good question. I th- I think it would be interesting to see if someone has already made some like estimations or
Hmm.
research, because I have only seen the headlines, because from time to time you can read the headlines of like different projects, but I think it's especially quite I think that is quite more more occurring event on, I think, NFT space than on the DeFi
Hmm.
space. I think on the DeFi space, people have some basic financial literacy, which means you have to pay the devs and you have to be conservative and careful. But on the NFT space, I think it's interesting, right? Because some projects would raise a few million,
Hmm.
uh, promise some roadmap, and suddenly, like, money's gone, and then you see protocols doing some very interesting, like, dubious transactions. So I think really, we are like definitely speed running something, and I really think that uh that right now, if we have this infrastructure for options, and we see that there are like more and more larger and larger like organizations like on chain that have their treasury on chain, they would need to do something. And I think it's also interesting to pivot around this, is when I could maybe just say some like very quick
Hmm.
story. So initially, like, our like idea number one was to offer SSOVs, which are like single staking option vaults. So to give you a super quick rundown, it goes like this: that SSOVs were like targeted for a DeFi user, which means if you use DeFi, you have been using DeFi since the famous DeFi summer. Your favorite activity is to stake your tokens, farm them, and make the number of tokens to go up. So our founders' idea was to, what if we would merge this, so a way to like single stake farm your tokens with the opportunity to write options with these tokens. So you will take risk, but you will increase uh, your potential return. And this was actually very cool, and people seem to like it because you can like go to our website, like Dopex.io and /SSOV. You can deposit your tokens. These tokens would be farming for you. You will get all your farms, and you can also choose to write options. And if you will be choosing to write options, you will be taking a risk because you will be the options seller. But if these options expire worthless, you are collecting all the premiums. So yes, there is risk, but there is some potential nice reward. And of course, on top of this, some vaults have some DPX incentives, which means you can collect some free DPX, which is maybe not free because you are taking risk, but you can collect some DPX rewards on top. Or if you are another kind of user that is looking to buy options, you can interact with our vaults because our vaults have the option pricing mechanism, etc. And you can buy the options, right? And these options are all are tokenized, so you just click, you get the live pricing. If you like the pricing, you can purchase the option, and that's it. So it just matches users who like to stake and farm and write options with users who prefer to buy options. But what we have noticed is actually uh, is that in DeFi right now you have a lot of kind of intrinsic risk, or like maybe systemic risk, across the border, which means liquidation cascades, right? Someone gets liquidated, the whole chain goes under. Large whale gets liquidated, the whole market collapses.
Hmm.
You in general, you have like very weird or crazy price swings. So we started to think, what if we would not like treat our options as like a walled garden, right? So yeah, we have people that like buy sell options, but what if we would try integrating our options into our protocols? So that's like pretty much the whole idea with the product that we are working on, so the Atlantic options. So it is basically speaking means that if you open some position somewhere that is leveraged, you can buy put options on Dopex with a price above your liquidation. And as long as these options are active, you will be protected from liquidation. So pretty much, repackaging options as the insurance. And this most likely opens a lot of new ways. And this is also kind of pivoting once again options towards people looking to actually hedge, right? Because for example, you may not be looking to to spend your money on like very very deep out of the money options as a speculator, right? Because they may be cheap, but they most likely would expire worthless. But at the same time, if you are a user looking to hedge, then you are most likely more than happy to purchase some cheap insurance
Mhm.
that would protect you from some very not too cool events. And at the same time, if you are, for example, a like treasury or like some kind of player entity that has a lot of liquidity and would like to take a rather small risk with your protocol, with your like assets, then you can, for example, become the writer for like Atlantic options, because the whole trick is that the Atlantic options would be most likely quite deep out of the money, which means you would serve a little bit like the plunge protection guy. So you are selling most likely protection against tail risk, but on the other hand, you are collecting premiums uh, across the way, unless we have some kind of a tail event. But what is interesting that if we have this possibility to like merge different protocols and stop liquidations, because suddenly options say, well, this user will not be liquidated because he has the put option bought in Dopex, so the liquidation will not trigger here. Then suddenly we will be able, to like stop many liquidations across crypto from happening, which means that suddenly the markets may start getting less and less volatile. So it could kind of start stabilizing the whole market. So that was our kind of idea, right? That what if we would try pivoting, try looking for really kind of like like organic ways how to find the users, how to find the buyers, the sellers. So we expect to have the Atlantics live soonish, and
Mhm.
we are slowly rolling out some educational content. So stay tuned. But that's our kind
Mhm.
of way of thinking. Just to embed the options very very deeply in the whole crypto world. So we do not want to be this world garden. We do not want to be this kind of island where you just buy sell options. We want for the options to kind of work in the background around the ecosystems.
Yeah,
So oh
it's
yeah, go
oh
ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna say, yeah, it's interesting because I feel like adoption is really gonna be like twofold, right? Like we're all degens in the space, and I'm sure some degens will take this as an opportunity to go Super Saiyan and just like double down on being a degen. But I think like for the hedging aspect, it really is gonna take two kind of aspects. The first being like simplicity, like how simple can we make, building out an option or buying an option, et cetera, or building that into another transaction that we have as a mode to hedge. And then I think the other aspect is like education. And I think like, like you were saying, like unless you're coming from like the Wall Street bets community, like maybe this is an opportunity for someone to start a Dopex bets subreddit. But like if
Oh yeah.
you're if you're coming from a Wall Street bets community, or like you've had experience trading on the stock market, and you're somewhat familiar with derivatives, you're somewhat familiar with options, for the most part, I think a lot of people, especially the ones that dove straight into crypto with like little to no experience in investing in equities, or just like in that sort of realm of industries, I think it's going to take some education for people, and education in like the most layman way possible, for people to feel even like confident getting into it. On that note, do you guys have like, I know a lot of like options trading markets will have like let's call them like simulation type methods for people to kind of get exposed to options without actually losing or winning anything. Like it's literally just like a simulation for for equities, for options without, just so that you can get like kind of practice, like warm up before you actually get invested in options. I feel like that's a good way for people to kind of get warmed up to it and feel a little bit confident before going in. Like, do you guys have something like that? Are you thinking about building out something like that? Or like, are you depending on other parts of the market to educate these investors?
So education for us is very important, as we see that a lot of people that come to us are not your traditional derivative trader or whatever kind of trader that comes from the traditional space, because they're mostly just normies, like I don't know, like anybody else that just bought a couple of coins and heard about Dopex, and now they're in a community, they like the memes, and so they stay for that, right? And
Right.
But so for these guys, yes. So we were thinking about having like a testing environment, like something that would maybe run on the test net, or maybe we had our own sandboxed environment where we would try something like this, like a testing environment. Unfortunately, this takes a lot of dev power from our hands, so it's not something that we're building out right now, but it's still something that we might think about building later. But at the moment, we think the best way for people to learn more is through just basic education, and for that we have things like our Dopex Academy, where we kind of collect all the like all the important stuff that we push out that kind of explains how things work. But also we have a lot of content from community members that just they break it down 100 times better than we ever could, and they just know how to speak to each other and how to kind of make it click for the regular person better than anybody else. And so a lot of our education is actually kind of ingrained in our community work and what you want to call marketing these days in crypto, right? So we try to push very heavy on that aspect, that the community kind of creates the content for itself, and then we just help to kind of push it out there for everybody to see. And that's kind of our strategy on that.
No, that's important. And maybe like, I mean, I'm sure you guys have probably done something similar to this, or like you already have something going on, but like even just opening up like quote unquote office hours virtually. Like I think we were talking to Thales, and they were doing something similar where they had like office hours just to educate like the community, or like maybe just spaces on Twitter just to educate people about like how these things work mechanically, and like how what sort of opportunities there are within the space, whether that be hedging, compounding income, etc. But I think that's cool that you guys are thinking about that, and I think that's an important part to it, because crypto in itself, like understanding how it works mechanically, is already complicated. But I think breaking that down even more into crypto derivatives, it just creates that extra layer of complexity. So I think it's important. Education is a really important aspect of any sort of crypto derivative, not even just options.
Yeah, I agree. We have hosted a couple of open spaces on our Discord regarding that. I mean, Halko is, he has a lot of fans on our Discord because people love how he explains stuff, and they love him for his voice because it's so smooth and
very easy to listen to.
Very easy to listen to, exactly. And he just explains these things so smooth brainish, like that everybody understands it. I mean, we should probably do one of those again, because we haven't done some in a while. But we have done those, and we are planning on pushing out more like professional made content at some point, but we're not at that stage right now. We think that might come at a later stage, like once all our main products are like finished and ready to be released in production, then we will also go the route of like releasing our own educational content, where we add videos and just kind of make it more professional. I think Deribit has a just to mention one of our centralized competitors, Deribit has a pretty good video course on options, and the more educational content, I think, the better. I don't think there should be competition. No.
Mario's doubling down on the, if you're listening to this, it's early.
Yeah,
I like it. Yeah, it's good. Go learn at Deribit, but don't use it, and then come over to Dopex and use the decentralized version.
Exactly. There you go. That's a good strategy.
Exactly. No, but I think it's really interesting. I do think it seems like a lot of people will see it on crypto Twitter, and they're like, "Oh, Dopex, Tetra's in there, Tetranode's in there. It should be, it's amazing. And then they just buy some coins and then they join, and then they get their baptism into options. But I wanted to ask you guys too. Do you work with Tetranode much? How has it been? Is he as based in real life as he is everywhere else we see him?
I think like most of our team has probably independently interacted with him. We don't have like a group chat. I mean, at least we don't have it. Maybe TZ has it or somebody else, but we don't. But he's like constantly active on our Discord, right? So he's talking to the community. He's talking to our esteemed CEO of the Diamond Peeps. If you guys know our NFT project that we're running.
Trouble.
Yeah, exactly. He's starting trouble, and so he is very, he's obviously very busy since he's managing or helping and advising in so many projects. But I think Dopex is definitely one of his babies, one of the ones that are more close to his heart. So he's very active in our community.
For sure, that's what I've seen. Is it feels like just from seeing his Twitter and different stuff like that, he has his like finger on the pulse very closely for Dopex, even though he's an advisor for so many protocols. You always like to think Dopex is probably his favorite child, though, right? But like they're all his favorite, but Dopex is probably the most favorite. But well, that's what I was kind of curious to. Let's see. We had a bunch of other questions. Actually, Steve, if you want to jump in for any of them, I had some more that were more centric for that, but I don't want to jump in too much on that one.
Yeah, no, I'm just like sitting here thinking, and like, I'm not sure what the feasibility of this is. Like, it seems like in this space, anything is possible. And if you can think of something at some point, it'll be built out. But like, have you guys thought about options where the underlying asset is like, the NFT, like NFT floor price, like basically like floor price go up, floor price go down, bet on that. Like bet is obviously taboo, so I won't say that word ever again. But, but have you guys thought of something like that? Is that something that's even possible?
Mario, what can we say?
If you guys want,
I think I have to step in here and pull the card off Halko. You can't talk anymore.
Alpha alert, is it? A little alpha alert.
Yeah,
I just
okay,
released alpha on my own without even knowing.
Blink twice if it's true. Blink twice. Don't say anything if that's for sure being released in the next month.
And this is where we dox you guys if you don't tell us the alpha. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, well, we'll take that. We'll take that with what it was. Yeah, would be cool to see. I wonder who will do it.
Yeah, it would be an amazing product if somebody was offering something like that. It would be amazing. But well, I did actually on that note. Well, I was going to actually ask. So, what is it like being a non in the crypto space for you guys? What's your experience been? Are you guys pseudonymous or completely anonymous?
I can just speak for myself here. So I'm mostly anonymous. I have some people that know me personally, like from a couple of years ago when I was still clear, more or less. So I'm not really 100% undoxed, but the last couple of years I've been pretty much, I don't know, just to kind of, it's just easier to work that way, and you feel a little bit safer too. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, for sure. I totally understand that, because like what you see so many times in this space where a project either goes great and everybody loves you, and then when it goes poorly or the market turns, everyone's like they just start cursing you and you become the villain and it's terrible, and like it's so quickly things move in this market.
Yep.
You go from a
very emotional
hero,
those people.
Exactly, a doxed hero to a doxed villain very quickly. I think we've seen that with I was just listening to Andre's one where he's basically no longer on Twitter because it's so toxic and the space is crazy and all that kind of stuff. But what do you guys feel if you've seen some of that about crypto regulations? Are you for or against crypto regulations? Would you want it done in a good way? Do you think it's possible to have smart crypto regulations, given how the government kind of typically runs?
And if I can add another layer to that question too, just like, do you believe that this is like crypto derivatives, obviously, I feel like is a place where I think a regulatory body would want to get involved in quickly. Do you think that is that something that influences your guys' decisions? And I guess like just looking forward to the future, is that something that you guys keep in mind when you make decisions, or is it basically just like we're making these choices, making these decisions, and if something steps in later, then we'll adjust.
I think that's a good question, right? Because how to say? Wait a minute. It's a very tricky thing because when you like if you want to regulate in general, right? It depends on your point of view because if you mean regulations, then the question is, will these be like regulations for, let's say, USA or for like Europe or for which countries? I think the problem here is, or maybe not a problem, the challenge is um, how to say this. In general, I think in like traditional world, a lot of regulations come from the very like old thing, which means you need to have a letter of law, and you need to have a like letter of law to regulate uh, contracts and how the contracts are structured and how the contracts are governed, settled, and how the disputes are settled. Right? That's why you want some regulations in the first place. So
Right.
so it all goes back to maybe Romans, maybe to Napoleon, maybe uh, back to uh, back to the Golden Bill, whichever legal zone you're at. But the thing is, right, that in real life, of course, if you have two parties entering into some contract, you want for this contract to be honored by the other parties. Of course, there are different ways, incentives, and ways to make sure that both parties execute, honor the obligation. And of course, there are some penalties if they don't, right? So that's why we have basically a whole letter of law to make sure that all these contracts are honored. And
Hmm.
this is quite interesting, right? Because in crypto, suddenly a lot of these things are gone because things are managed through smart contracts, right? So you have this code is low, and if you are interacting with a platform, which is a smart contract, then you can see what the contract is doing, and you are always certain that the outcome of the contract you enter into is going to be always the same as intended. So obviously, suddenly you do not have this risk of your counterparty not withholding the obligations, right? You do not
Hmm.
have this risk of like your counterparty cheating on you because everything is coded. And I think this is interesting because suddenly a lot of things that regulations would usually try to cover, they are already covered by design itself. And if we would think about derivatives, right, like one of the reasons I would say why there have been many regulations coming up, especially since 2008, right? Because we saw MiFID II, we saw Dodd-Frank, we basically saw for all the financial institutions to be kind of forced to size up their legal teams very significantly because the obligations on the, for example, reporting side have been increased by a lot. Right? You are like a regulating body in the US, in the EU, in other countries. You want to have the insight into what large players on the market that may pose systemic risk are doing. Once again, on blockchain by design, this may be already fixed because everyone can check the chain, right? You cannot check, for example, brokers' books as a person, like random person. You cannot like walk in, ask them, "Hey, what's in your books?" Right? Because
Hmm.
you cannot. You have audits that are being published. You have some reporting that goes to the regulators every week, every month, every quarter. But if you are on chain, you check the address, you see everything. It's very transparent. So many
Everything all the
protocols.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
Yeah.
means if
exactly.
you are a regulating body, you can just audit any protocol at any time. Or like if you are not even like a regulating body, if you like basically average Joe, there is this no level of information asymmetry. So once again, this is like another thing that you see in like real life regulations being pushed, which is kind of already covered. And once again, right, it is very easy to identify who may pose that kind of systemic risk to the system, right? Because we are all on the public ledger, and for the same reason, we have these basically waves of users taking too much risk, getting liquidated, punished instantly because we do not have a patch protection team.
Yeah.
Plus, by design in crypto, we have no credit. It's very, very hard to get under
Credits
collateralized
and
credit.
Credit is
Once-
Matthias's favorite subject. So
Yeah.
I do love it. So I mean, it is pretty fun. But I'm curious if you think that it's going to get easier and easier for like the average Joe to check the chain. I mean, I know like if you're experienced or you're a dev, it's very easy to you can check the chain. I wonder how many people that like just have their money on Coinbase or something or buying NFTs really can like do that technical analysis or check the chain. Do you think that's going to get easier in the future, or is that
Maybe
going to stay about
probably
the same?
maybe probably like some applications protocols.
they
But
need
again,
the
like
audit protocol.
yeah. But even
Mm,
like the idea is that anyone can do this. So it doesn't mean
Hmm.
that anyone has to do this and anyone need to have a skill to do this.
Hmm.
But it means you do not need a designated person in the administration that would be allowed to do this, which means if you one day wake up thinking, I would like to be the on-chain auditor, you can be and nothing stops you, which means there is like no vetting, which means even the most, if you would find, a crusader that would be looking to sniff out all the racks, which would be very, very cool and amazing, then you can do this even now, right? You do not
hmm
need to get hired by any kind of authority. You can start checking the chain, investigating anytime now. So once again, basically by design, it is very, very hard to do anything shady on chain because you know, most likely someone will come across this. Right,
Yeah,
and
somebody's gonna write. Zach's gonna write a thread about you or something like that
exactly,
if you do
exactly.
something bad. I think we
Yeah,
need probably 200 more Zachs, though. I think that's probably about right for just the volume of projects coming out and all that.
Yeah, we need Mosaics. I agree, 100%.
Zach Dow. When do we do a Zach Dow and just get 10 more?
Yeah, they just monitor all the projects, just give it a stamp of approval if it passes.
Well, it's nice to
exactly.
see stuff being done about it because you do see, I see a thread. Zach puts out a thread every week about this other rug or these people have, rugged or 9 different times and they're just like, and I wonder if people are just like, oh, okay, that's just par for the course. It's all risk on. But, I do feel like options are kind of a conservative mechanism, right? They're more typically for institutions to hedge out risk and not so much for like degens to really just degen out, but it does seem
Well,
like that's how it's being used, right?
I mean, I would say that it's a conservative. Sorry, before
No,
you
no,
can
jump in,
answer,
yeah.
I was just going to say I would say that it's a conservative mechanism, maybe at the institutional level, but I think for most retail investors, it tends to be another degenerate opportunity.
Everything's a degenerate opportunity if you try hard enough.
Right. I
People are
mean, I
like
think
just degens.
the idea is that it has the capability to be both, right? So you have the
Yeah,
option to use this mechanism conservatively, but you also have the option to use it, as a means to basically triple down on certain investments.
with great power comes great responsibility, kind of stuff.
Exactly. And I mean, bringing it back to like the regulatory point too. I mean, it's like you don't have to bridge the trust gap between like you and a regulatory body with blockchain because everything's available to you like in that moment whenever you want. So I think that's kind of the point, Halko, that you were speaking on. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very there. It's an equal opportunity in crypto, and that I only see people really call for a lot of regulation or a lot of stuff like that once they're down. When they lose money, it's like, oh, where's the SEC? Like, why didn't they step in? Like, oh, this should be illegal. And when they're up like 100x, then they're like, this is amazing. Please, nobody like IRS, stay far away from here.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly. It's like
it seems to be the
once you get
sentiment.
rugged, you want someone to be you want someone to be your guardian angel. But like if you're not
Yeah.
getting rugged, you're like, I don't want anyone to look at this.
It does tend to run that way. Maybe that's I think I think I'm happy or I'm excited to see the market mature and retail
Hmm.
mature a little bit more because a lot sometimes in the NFTs and DeFi people are coming kind of and are pretty savvy, but in the NFT space, it does seem interesting where a lot of people will look at like a raise or something. They sell out their NFTs and they're like, good, they should have funding forever. Like they don't think like, oh, this is a 1 year runway. This is just the roadmap. They're just like, good, that should be fine. And then, the team has to do a raise again. And people are like, oh, wait, what the hell? Where did all the other money go? And I'm interested to see how many of these, like, how many people do we think in this space realistically can be treasurers or risk management for protocols versus how many people are actually available to do that job, you
Yeah,
know?
no, that's a good point. I mean, I think too, looking back at like our last podcast, the theme of the last couple has been this like unlocking of liquidity, maturation, like all of these things, because you go back a couple years and like there weren't really crypto derivatives, like there wasn't really like NFT lending, there wasn't really like all of these other options for, to quote Russ, like the financialization of, his article is NFTs, but just in general, like the financialization of crypto. And so I really like these projects like Dopex, that are kind of unlocking that part of the market that hasn't gotten there yet, because I think it provides a stepping stone for the market to mature and become something more complex, but also at the same time more opportunistic for others. And I think that that's like a really good thing. One, and I think that it's kind of a sign of the market maturing, like Halko has been saying, like all of us have been saying. So I do really like the
Hmm.
project, and I think it's going to provide a great opportunity for a lot of people and a lot of other projects as well.
Yeah, it's nice to see stuff where people can actually, like a project might be able to use Dopex to hedge out some risk, or have, if they are keeping everything in ETH, where they may not have had that opportunity before unless they are
Hmm.
sophisticated. Because some of the problem with crypto is that people that can do some of these jobs would make way more money than they're possibly paid working for a protocol as well. So
Hmm.
it's just kind of hard. But I think that is kind of going away as well, to where people want to work in protocols. They don't want to be, lone wolves, lone whales just running around. So it'll be interesting to see where the mass market can kind of take care of, get that kind of safety net, have that care for the protocol. Cool. Well, let's see. I did want to ask too, because we got you guys on here. What does Dopex kind of do better than any other option protocol?
That's a tough one.
There's so many things, so it's hard to nail. You could always pick your favorite if you want to gloss over a few.
Yeah,
Well,
Give your Dopex pitch through the
The
comparative
bulkies.
lens.
yeah,
Yeah.
I probably Halko is probably best to compare products, but for me, I think one of the outliers when it comes to Dopex is definitely our community and the people that the crazy people that are a part of our Discord server. These guys just kind of, I don't know. It's just I haven't had the pleasure of being part of something like this or working with people like this before that are so um, what's the right word here, so engaged and
Coping.
so
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, so yeah, almost like crazy. No, not crazy, a different word for crazy, ecstatic or whatever. They're
Enthusiastic
like,
or something.
yeah, 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 exactly. And they voice their opinion everywhere. On Twitter, on other Discords, on Telegram, wherever. And they're always there for us as well. And yeah, I think that's definitely one of the major things that sets us apart. That we have our our not our dope gangs, what we call them. You can everybody has theirs, but I think ours is definitely one of the strongest.
I love that. Yeah, no, it's funny bringing it back to the education point that we were speaking on earlier.
Yeah.
I think the really cool thing about crypto, DeFi, Web3 space is like these Discord communities kind of give an opportunity for education to happen organically, rather than like, like if you want to get involved in options, like you kind of have to lean on sort of options communities like YouTube videos, et cetera, for education. But when you're part of a community that's building a project or part of a project and they want to see this thing grow, like everyone's kind of willing to educate everyone else, because especially in this case, like education means growth, education means more entrance. And I think that that's kind of this like let's call it like a community flywheel, where like the project can kind of build itself from the education aspect. Like people can kind of build their knowledge of the project just from being a part of community, and in the process of educating themselves can educate others.
Well said. Better than I did.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, where else do you get to swim with the whales except for in Dopex,
Yes,
Discord, and stuff
exactly.
like that?
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah.
Where else do you
Well,
have whales like DMing you on Discord? Like it's such a it is very cool.
It is nice, but I was gonna ask you guys too. What do you think? Oh, because we were talking about the financialization of NFTs. Do you think more financial products are gonna start appearing around the NFT space? Typically, it seems like they're kind of segregated out. There's NFTs and there's DeFi. But it just
Without
seems like
giving
there's
away
bridges.
Dopex Alpha.
Yeah, without specifically your guys's, but just in general, it seems like there's more projects that kind of are trying to link the two together. You know, do you think that's a market trend or what?
He's thinking very carefully.
Whoever wants to leak the most alpha, please take this one.
I mean, in general, I think definitely yes. NFTs are a probably bigger market right now than DeFi when it comes to retail users that are in there, and a lot of projects are playing with it, and a lot of DeFi projects coming out with their own NFT side projects, like we are with Diamond Peppers, because I think NFTs just kind of make it easy for people to maybe grasp to some concepts of crypto itself as well. And I think that's why these are. I see NFTs as a way to Trojan horse onboard people into Dopex. So that's kind of where we position our NFT project.
I agree. I mean, I think it's really intelligent for a lot of these DeFi projects to just to figure out ways to bridge NFTs to their projects. Also, like, I think, with regards to NFTs, like, people have a lot of an easier time grasping buying a JPEG over like strike price, maturity date, interest rate, like all of these things that kind of come with the financialization of NFTs. And if they get into NFTs first, it kind of provides the first step for getting into DeFi for any DeFi project that's creating a bridge from the NFT space to the DeFi space, if that makes sense.
I think it would be hilarious to see something where it's like a D&D role playing game or something, but it's really options, like, so you buy like a knight or something, and it's like a put, and then you have like, oh shit, a dragon came, you just get wrecked by it.
Yeah, kind of like
oh no, yeah,
kind of like how Thales is gamifying their market. It's
yeah, exactly. Like,
yeah,
so you get to play the board, and it's like, oh, you won because you had whatever. It's like it does kind of take away the complexity, and I think making it kind of more palatable for retail is probably the name of the game in the short term.
Let me think, because I got so lost in thoughts that I was like, I kind of drifted away when you were talking about the gamification of DeFi, because I think this is a very interesting topic, which means I know that many people are tackling this, and I mean, I would say why not? Because I think if this can be done, maybe it is going to be something that works, or maybe it doesn't work, right? But we are not here to judge. And if people come up with ideas, hey, how about exactly we do this way or that way, then I think that's cool. I mean, for me, I think the most important thing is, and maybe that's like my kind of personal itch, because Mario has already said that, like, whenever people come to us, we really do a lot to educate them. We do not want for people, to, obviously we are a derivatives protocol, and derivatives are slightly more complex instruments, which means we really want to have the users being fully aware what they are doing, how they are interacting, because this is like very important to us. And the thing is that I would say that maybe this is something that in general maybe would require more work across the whole DeFi, is that a lot of kind of maybe protocols would still, I think still there is a lot of work to be done, on the risk side, on like the explanation of what is the upside of doing various things, right? Because DeFi likes to advertise 6-digit APY, but no one really wants to advertise the risks behind this APY, or where does it come from. And then I think for us, we're like, well, of course you can if market moves your way, then of course you can generate crazy good returns, but of course you are taking a risk, right? So here you win, here you lose, and I really think that that there is a lot of maybe people like overlook risk too much, or maybe there is not enough education. So,
Mhm.
so I think it would be good to see more of this.
Yeah, no, everyone's kind of looking for a free lunch, but there's really no such thing as a free lunch in anywhere you're making money. If you're making
Yeah.
money, someone else is making a little bit more.
6-digit APY comes with 6-digit risk. It's like,
Yeah, exactly.
I think it would be interesting. I think there is a point that I'd love to get Halko's or Mario as well. But I ask people too, like when we're onboarding new participants, would we into the market, into crypto and everything in general like this? Would we rather have everybody in the market, even if they're not educated, or would we rather have a smaller number, let's say 20 crypto, but they're all sophisticated? And let's say 1% of the population is sophisticated at this point. Would we rather have 20% sophisticated but only them in the market, or would we rather have everybody and just soften it, or make it an easier learning curve or something like that, or where they don't even know what's going on, they're just kind of clicking buttons?
Yeah, like a smaller, sophisticated audience versus an unsophisticated, larger audience. Which one do you guys think is more important?
If you had a magic wand and you could just bring them right into DeFi, which one would you rather have?
I mean, for me personally, I think, I mean, you always have to start somewhere, and I think, if I would have waited to get into the space, and before I've learned everything and I felt comfortable or that I understood. I mean, I'd still understand everything, and so I mean, why? I mean, but why should I not participate in this? Right? I don't know. That's kind of how I see this, and I think the more people are in this, the better. And a lot of people learn by doing and learn by using these protocols. That's kind of what I am. I don't really learn that much by reading. I need to use things. I need to be in the weeds and try it out. And that's how I learn. And I think that most people probably tick like this as well. And I would probably prefer just bring everybody in now, and then they can learn by doing. And there's a lot of educational content out there. But most people are not even aware of our space, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, the two things kind of lend to each other, right? Like an unsophisticated, bigger audience gives a greater opportunity for people to become sophisticated, and a smaller, sophisticated audience gives a greater opportunity for them to, create sophisticated participants.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. And what do you think, Halko?
Yeah, I think it's like within the DeFi ethos, right? That it's like, equal opportunities, but maybe not equal results. But I think that definitely I'm all in for no gatekeeping, which means if you want to try, if you want to use, then exactly you should go for it. But I also think that, I mean, I would say this is pretty much a community responsibility, and I think this is what we do and we strive to do, is to make sure that new users, they are educated first, which means if you are new, then you should come, you should try, but also there is responsibility on all the protocols to make sure that these new users are educated and they are not misled and they are aware of what they are doing, what could be like, pitfalls. Because of course, if you are if you are not treating your users fairly, then you are going to discourage them from DeFi, and this way no more people would come, right? But if you really care about your users and you help them learn the ropes, then they would onboard more people. So it's really all about organic growth, right? So if you are here for the long term, right, then your best bet is to have like as many users as possible, but at the same time make sure that you treat them well and you treat them fairly. So yes, I'm definitely up for no gatekeeping, and it would be definitely very cool to have every single user is welcome, right? Because one day you may be unsophisticated, right? But you still learn, and suddenly, a few months later, you suddenly become a more sophisticated user. Or maybe you are just a kind of guy that doesn't really need to use all these protocols because maybe you just need DeFi for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, right? Maybe that's all you need to do. So I also think, right, that we shouldn't be expecting all the people to know all the protocols. And I think that's kind of a pitfall, right? Because if you have been there, let's say, year and a half ago, and when you like go back to even like late 2020, then
Hmm.
in order to like master whole DeFi, you just needed to know how like maybe 5 or like 7 protocols work, right? Because you had like Aave Compound, Yen, Uni Sushi, DYDX, what else? Pickle. If I missed someone, sorry guys, but you know what I mean. It was like so it was
Snubbing
like
anybody not mentioned. He hates you if you weren't mentioned.
no, it's like just straight left from the top of my head, right? You just wanted a platform to borrow land. You wanted a platform to swap. So you wanted to platform, of course, Curve. You wanted the platform to do this for you. So you had stable swaps on Curve. You had swaps on Uni and Sushi. You had lending on Aave and Compound. You had strats farming out the compounding on Yen on Pickle. And only then, right, more sophistication started to come in. But to be honest, like back then, if you just followed what was happening in these protocols, you were like able to track 80% of DeFi. So it was quite easy to master DeFi very quickly. And right now everyone is trying to build something new, to add more to the ecosystem. I don't really think it's possible to to right now know what's happening.
Yeah,
here
get a
and
grasp
there.
on everything.
There's too many things that are going on right now, but I think that is, I mean, in my mind, that does sound like the best way to get the most amount of people on is build a strong, helpful, enthusiastic community, and then just push as many people as possible to then try it out, and then let the community help them out. It's like, throwing yourself into the deep end, but the community is your flotation device.
Yep.
They will help you learn to swim and keep your head above water in the options market. And then once you get your handle there, then it's good. But I think people discount how much the community really makes that workable. Because if you just push people into the deep end of the pool and there's no community, it doesn't work out.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. And I think
cool.
community is always a great way to on too. So, but yeah, I just want to say like thank you guys for joining. Mario, Halko, you guys are great. Everything you guys talked about, we really like the product. We like the project. I think it's going to do great things for the space. So first of all, I just wanted to thank you guys. And second of all, I just wanted to say like keep building, and a year down the line, even a couple months down the line, we'd be happy to have you guys on again and talk about where Dopex is at then.
Yeah, I'm excited for all the stuff you guys didn't talk about too. I
Yeah.
think that's the most thing.
And all the alpha that I leaked.
In time, Sirs, in time.
Perfect. I'm just hoping that you'll share it with us. Come on the pod to let us know about it.
Yeah, definitely.
That sounds good though.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming
any
on.
alpha leaks you guys want to do, just come right up on the pod and leak it with us.
Yeah,
honestly, for alpha leaks, all you have to do is chill in our general chat, and then TZ will drop the alpha bombs whenever he feels to. So that's actually the best way of never missing anything.
He's like your guys' Raijin. We have Raijin, one of the co-founders at Shogun War, does the same thing.
Yeah, dropping alpha all the time.
Yep.
Perfect. Well, thanks again, guys, for joining us.
Yeah,
thanks for having us, guys. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, of course.
And one more alpha, guys, like final alpha leak.
Final alpha.
Stay tuned and read all the leaks and news on the Atlantic options. Like really stay on track, because it's going to be nice, and you don't want to miss this. So this is the alpha leak. Yeah.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
When it speaks, you listen.
Yep.
There
we
we go.
love that. Well, we love to hear that. And again, guys, thank you and appreciate your guys' time.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Yeah, of course. Bye, guys.